Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to my channel, Roseology. I pray that you had a wonderful, peaceful, beautiful new year so far, but many of us have gotten off to a kind of rocky start for 2020 and for this turn of the decade. I did mention this in my previous video, the January predictions video that I just put up. I will link that down below in case you're interested in it. I'll link it in the description box. But I did mention in the beginning of that video how we won't be feeling any sort of fresh energy. We're not going to be really feeling like this is the turn of the decade, the start of the new year, until closer to February because of a few different astrological placements that we have going on right now. And honestly, this was a current of energy that I've been feeling since late December. Probably many of you have as well. So we're going to be talking about and really diving in deep today as to what exactly that eerie, anxious, fearful sort of feeling is that we're all sort of feeling subconsciously. So we're going to be talking about exactly what this is, why we're feeling it, how long we're going to be feeling it for, and how to not only deal with it, but override this energy. I have pulled some cards as well, and we're going to be going over that tarot spread at the end of this video. So make sure that you are checking the comments in the description box down below for timestamps to the meditation, to the tarot spread, to different topics and points discussed in this video in case you have specific needs, okay? So go on ahead, grab some paper, pen, food, wine, snacks, drinks, whatever the case, and we're just going to go on ahead and jump straight into this because there's a lot to cover today, okay? So starting off, a few things to know is that this full moon that is happening in the sign of Cancer, which is what we're going to be talking about, discussing in today's video, this full moon is occurring in the sign of Cancer. It is also a lunar eclipse, and this will be happening on January 10th to January 11th, depending on which part of the world you live in. During this full moon and lunar eclipse in the sign of Cancer, Saturn and Pluto will be conjunct. They sort of have been for some time now. This only happens every 34 years or so, and the sun is preparing to move past this conjunction of Saturn and Pluto. Another thing that is making this full moon / lunar eclipse so much more powerful is the fact that the moon is at home in the sign of Cancer because the moon rules Cancer, as well as this full moon lunar eclipse is happening in the same sign that the north node is falling under, the sign of Cancer. So this is a full moon that we're experiencing where we are dealing with the pressures of the north and the south node. I will be explaining exactly what those are later on in this video, but basically the north and south node have been sitting in the opposing signs of Capricorn and Cancer for well over a year now. And so this is a time of a lot of heightened awareness, very intense heightened awareness, okay? So we need to understand the full moon, the sign of Cancer, and exactly what a lunar eclipse is. So a lunar eclipse is actually when the earth intersects the sun and the moon. So the earth is sitting directly in the middle of the crossfire between the sun and the moon right now, these opposing forces basically. So what is a full moon? And I've explained this in a lot of my new and full moon videos. You guys can definitely check those out, but to briefly explain what it is for the sake of this video, a full moon is when the moon is opposing the sun. So it is sitting 180 degrees apart from the sun. And when the moon is opposing the sun like this, the moon is almost challenging the sun. It's like they're sitting at opposite ends of the dining table. And the moon is saying, I am here. I am my own celestial body. I am my own light in the sky. I don't need the sun anymore. Because when the moon is sitting close to the sun during a new moon, the moon is completely invisible. So by the time she transitions into the phase of the full moon, she has built up enough energy to make her presence known. And what she's doing right now is she is demanding that we see her. She is demanding us to take notice of her. Moving on to Cancer. Who is Cancer? What is the energy of Cancer? This crab, right? So Cancer is ruled by the moon and it rules the fourth house. Cancer is the archetype of the mother. This is somebody, a mother is somebody that makes you feel what? Safe, warm, nourished, loved. One of the very many roles of the archetype of the divine feminine is to conceive life, to create it, birth it, and then sustain that life. So that life can learn to fend for itself and eventually go out and be on its own, support its own self. We moved out of that particular vibration in 2019 because 2019 reduces to the number 3. And 3 is the vibration of life, creation, mother, the womb. And that's why I talked about in my 2020 forecast video. I'll also link that video down below if you're interested in that one. But this is why I talked about in that video in particular how many of us sort of complained in 2019 feeling stuck, feeling stagnant, feeling like we weren't moving or getting anywhere. And that is because in 2019 we were in our very own retrograde period because we were in the womb. We were being created, we were being nourished, we were being sculpted basically. So the retrograde moment that we were feeling in 2019 was actually teaching us. We were learning by making mistakes, getting injured, not listening to ourselves, the same way that a child sort of disobeys their parent and they have to end up learning the hard way. You know that saying like hard head makes for a soft ass. It's just like that basically. We were being taught under the very watchful eye of this mothering sort of presence. And it's interesting because during 2019 I kept having dream after dream after dream about this mother figure. I would see my own mother in my dreams a lot. And as well as I remember one time in particular having a dream with my mother, and we were walking down this bridge made of diamonds, and it was so extremely beautiful. We were crossing this ocean, this clear blue ocean. And as I was walking with my mother, I heard the name Oshun. And Oshun, she is a Orisha of the Ifa religion, the Yoruba tradition. She's somebody that made herself very present to me in 2019, her as well as Aset, the goddess Isis. They both made themselves very, very, very present to me in 2019. I had never worked with energies like this before, but they really came into my life at a time where I was learning how to embrace my own divine feminine, and I had never really done that before. And I remember there just being this theme of the divine feminine, needing to get very comfortable with the divine feminine, and those two energies really did help me to embrace my own divine feminine nature and my own divine feminine energy, which I am so extremely appreciative of. Like, I cannot thank Oshun Aset enough for these lessons, because they've been so incredibly profound for me in my life. They've helped me to really evolve, to transform. It was like they were really just guiding me along the way, which was amazing. And I knew exactly what that dream meant. That dream meant that, like, you know, I have my earth mother, who is also like my protector, but I also have a spiritual mother. And I think that she was just trying to make herself known. And I became very aware of them in 2019. I think a lot of us kind of ended up embracing a lot of the divine feminine qualities and archetypes in 2019, because that was just the vibration of that year, basically. 2019 was a 3-year. 2020 is a 4-year. Now, this is all about us standing up to support ourselves. Like I said, a mother is, one of her roles is to create life, to conceive it, birth it, and then sustain that life so that that life can go on and stabilize itself. So this is exactly what is happening right now in 2020, is we are learning how to stabilize ourselves, because this is us standing up to support ourselves, because we've been taught, we've been nourished, we've been cradled. Now it's time to leave the nest, for us to leave our mother's arms, and for us to venture out into the world on our own, because we've learned everything it is that we needed to learn. That mothering figure, that mothering presence has taught us everything it is that we've needed to learn. Whether or not we actually retained those lessons, that divine feminine presence did its job, and it taught us everything it is that we needed to know. Now we have to do for us. So this is the nature of Cancer: warm, loving, nurturing, highly intuitive. Mothers are highly intuitive because their children, their young, can't speak for a certain amount of time. They can't necessarily communicate what it is that they need. So a mother has to be intuitive. That mother has to be connected to her child in order to understand what that child needs or wants at that time, until that child learns how to speak and do for itself, right? So this is a sign and energy, a presence, Cancer is, that knows how to take care of you better than you know how to take care of you. And that is a part of what makes us feel so safe and secure when we're dealing with Cancer, is because of the simple fact that we already know we're going to be taken care of. We already know that we're dealing with an energy of presence that intuitively knows exactly what it is that we need. Now, Cancer being so giving can cause a little bit of resentment or mean mommy syndrome. And this happens when you've done so much for everyone else that there's no reciprocity. There's no sort of appreciation given back to you for what it is that you've done. Even if you don't get replenished in the exact same way that you have given, you're at least looking for a little bit of gratitude, a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of respect. And it's like, if you don't at least do that bare minimum, that's what sends Cancer off in a completely different direction. This is what makes Cancer snap. And this is why I think Cancer is seen as very sensitive, because Cancer really gives a lot of itself. And it's like, I'm just looking for the bare minimum to come back to me. I'm just looking for appreciation. Cancer is the crab that nestles in because it prioritizes protection over everything else. The same way that the womb is closed off, it's guarded, and it's doing that to protect that new life that is forming inside of it. Basically, this is the energy of Cancer. Now, moving on to the North and the South Node. The North and South Node are axis points on the Earth's moon. The South Node can represent something like the past, our past life, our childhood, certain cycles and patterns that we may be predisposed to. The North Node, which is always in retrograde, actually represents our future, the area that we should be focused on in this incarnation. This is how we move forward, following the North Star, the North Node, okay? The South Node has been in the sign of Capricorn and the North Node in the sign of Cancer for well over a year now, since around November 2018. And the North Node will be in the sign of Cancer, South Node in the sign of Capricorn up until June 4th, 2020 of this year. So if your North and South Node falls in either signs of Cancer or Capricorn, you're going to be feeling this lives extra intensely. I've even done a pick a card reading because I like to bridge tarot and astrology here together on my channel. So I actually did pick a card on your north and south node. So even if you don't know your birth chart, you can check out that reading. I will link it down below. That the way you guys can check out the energy that your north and south node brings into your life, okay? But the south and north node basically just shows the wisdom it is that you have accrued in this present incarnation, the wisdom that you came in with, and the wisdom it is that you're supposed to be picking up in this present life, okay? So the south node can be the pressure it is that we're feeling, that gravitational pull is what I call it, that we feel of the past, of past patterns and cycles and decisions and choices it is that we've made. It's very easy to fall back into our past ways for a specific reason because the past has built up a lot of momentum. It's built up a huge gravitational force that can very easily pull us right back in to those same old ways, right? So it takes a lot more effort and energy to escape that gravitational force from our past. And it's interesting because Jupiter is sitting right next to the south node. So it's really sort of expanding this energy, this pressure it is that we're feeling right now. And it's also in the sign of Capricorn. It's just a lot going on. And I'm going to cover that in a few minutes here. But first, let's go on ahead and move on to the Sun conjunct Saturn and Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. So opposite the full moon, we have this concentrated energy in the sign of Capricorn thanks to the south node, Jupiter, the Sun, Mercury, Saturn, and Pluto. So like I sort of warned in my January predictions video that we're going to be feeling this state of fear, maybe a little bit subconsciously. We may have to say goodbye to certain commitments, certain relationships, certain bonds that we formed. This energy being in Capricorn, Capricorn is really all about structure and sort of the things that are supposed to stand the test of time. And so when we have all this energy in the sign of Capricorn, Saturn and Pluto, which is all about breaking down things, we're having the breakdown of things that we thought were never going to change. So these are not just new relationships that we formed, these are old relationships. These are relationships that we've had since we were kids, relationships that we've had for decades. These are people that we expected to always be in our life. Energies we expected to always be in our life, institutions, commitments, promises, habits, lifestyles, cycles, things like that. This is our security blanket literally getting ripped in two. So this is the foundation it is that we are standing on. And this is just something, like I said, we always expected it to be around, to always be supporting us, to always be propping us up. And right now it is getting completely deconstructed. And we won't be feeling like we're finally on new ground until closer to February, like I said earlier in this video. So there is an intense pressure that's being felt collectively. And this is the perfect cocktail of energy to bring on something that I call symptomatic fear. And this is a sort of fear that's very confusing because it sort of comes out of nowhere. There's no sort of like imminent threat, but there's this anticipation, there's this feeling, there's a sensation of, I feel like I should be afraid. I feel like there's something coming. I feel like there's like these eyes on me, or when I turn and look around, there's nothing there. Or I feel like there's something happening, but when I turn around and look, everything's still. It's kind of like that quiet right before the storm where it's like you can sense it. So there's like that looming, that anticipation basically. And fear is what is born from that type of anxiety, from that type of anticipation. And this is why I sort of feel like I actually need to apologize for making that statement in that January prediction video. And honestly, none of you guys had an issue with what I was saying or anything like that. In fact, a lot of you guys were actually saying, yeah, I've been feeling this and I didn't know what the hell was going on. So thanks for that heads up. But I actually want to apologize for making that statement and just sort of leaving it there instead of talking about how we can actually cope with it. Because you guys know me on my channel, if you've been subscribed here, you guys know that I stay very focused on exactly how we can cope with whatever is going on in our life, how we can deal with it, how we can overcome it, you know? So I don't like to just say like, yeah, like it's gonna be pretty fucked up and just leave you guys with that. Like, no, like, you know, I should have broken it down a little bit more, but I was kind of trying to get to the point of that video. I didn't want to take too much time. So I'm going to take the time in this video to really break down and talk about how we can override that fear. There's so many people talking about World War III. There's people that are angry, pissed off, sad, grieving, depressed, afraid, you know, and I did sort of make that, I don't want to say prediction because I don't like saying the word, I don't like using the word prediction. I have these weird things, you guys, I'm sorry, but I don't like using the word prediction, but I did sort of talk on it a little bit. And this was a few days before Trump made the decision that he made concerning Iran. And a lot of people are looking at this and saying, oh, this is the start of the next world war. And this is a lesson that Pluto is trying to teach us right now, because Pluto doesn't just rule death and transformation, he also rules power. So isn't that interesting how Pluto rules power but death at the same time? Because death and transformation is real change. Real change is the type of change that you cannot back out of. It's the type of change that you can't necessarily negotiate with or control or manipulate in any way, shape, or form. You can't influence it. It's the type of change that you have to just surrender to. So I think it's really funny how Pluto rules power, death, and transformation, but Pluto's idea of power is surrender. That's Pluto's idea of power. You need to surrender to me, surrender to this change. So Pluto is trying to get us to understand power, a different type of power. He's trying to get us to understand that we conjure up everything. And this is because we are machines for creation. We exist to serve energy that wishes to be born. So we are working as vessels to bring this energy into being. So even though we are feeling this weight, fear, loom, dread, grief, whatever the case, the stars right now, the planets right now are actually telling us to manually shift our vibration to raise it higher than the energies that we are detecting in this fear, in this loom, in this dread. And that is exactly what astrology is. It is being able to see the energy that is coming or the energy that is present and adjusting our frequency according to those observations. It's like a weather forecast. You check the weather to see what it's going to be like, to see if it's like, okay, I need an umbrella because it's going to be raining, or I need to dress in more layers because it's going to be cold. It's the same exact thing. The interesting thing here is that some people see Saturn as the more so bad planet, like the evil planet. Like he is the one that is all about sort of chaos because he deconstructs things. A lot of people have even made connections between Saturn and Satan, or Saturn and the Egyptian Kemetic Netru known as Set, the god of chaos, destruction. So some people see Saturn as quite devious and a little maleficent. I talk about this quite often, how I am one of those spiritual people that believes evil exists. I don't believe that we're just existing in a world of rainbow, sunshine, fairies, and cotton candy. I believe that we live in a world and live in a space where there is energetic warfare occurring. And it is as simple as deciding what side it is that we want to commit to, basically. And I understand why people don't want to believe that evil exists, because it's like when you sort of focus on something, or when you sort of acknowledge something, you're giving life, you're giving power to it. So I understand why people don't want to see that evil exists, or why they have that sort of notion. This is just my theory, just my opinion. I could be completely wrong about everything it is that I discuss, so it's just my theory. But I do believe that evil exists, and I believe that we're not powerless to it, though. That's the thing here. I actually believe that we're much more powerful and much more effective than evil. We just need to have awareness, because the only advantage that evil has is the fact that it operates in hiding under different masks and identities. And this is because evil is forced to work behind the truth, in the dark, where we can't necessarily see everything, where we can't rely on our eyes and structure it is that we're used to, but we have to rely on our senses, what it is that we can actually discern instead. And this is because when we know, when we can see, when we have structure, when we have faith, when we believe, we are too damn powerful, no matter what it is that's happening around us. When we have that faith, evil knows that it cannot touch us, because we can't be phased. Monsters only come out from under the bed at night, right? So this is for a reason. This is because that these monsters know, well, when the lights are out, you don't know if you're looking at a lampshade or a person standing in your corner, because it looks crazy. I can really form whatever sort of perception I want in this type of playground. So evil really loves an atmosphere that can be constructed, that can be sort of warped, So that's why it doesn't like to work in the light. It doesn't like to work in these places where it's like, oh no, I can clearly see my light is on, and I can see it's a lampshade. It's not a person. I'm not scared. It needs to work in these places where it's like, but I can trick you because you don't know, because you can't be 100% sure. And that's where evil likes to work at, okay? And with the energy that we're feeling astrologically, this is sort of low vibrational energy, but not the evil sort of low vibrational energy. This is just low vibrational energy because of the fact that people are encountering their past, they're encountering their consequences, they're encountering their karma, they're encountering their shadow, they're encountering their unconscious. We are encountering the dark. So this is making people a little bit more fearful, a little bit more anxious, a little bit more stressed. And those sorts of feelings are very dense. They're very heavy sort of feelings and emotions. And anytime that we have heavy energy, we are dealing with low vibrational energy because it's heavy. And so this low vibrational frequency doesn't necessarily mean that evil's taking over, that evil's winning. No, it doesn't mean that. But the energy, the astrological placements is very primed for low vibrational entities to come in and manipulate those that lack awareness and convince them into thinking that they are powerless, but we are not. I mentioned this in one of the piles of my January prediction videos, how fear is becoming more and more and more and more desperate. So fear is becoming more desperate because we've started to pull away from it. That's what's happening here. Fear is losing its control. It's almost like a really desperate ex that wants you back. And so they get even more dramatic. They get even more loud, even more boisterous. And it's like they're just doing the most because it's like they can't stand the fact that they're losing their grip on you, basically. 2020 is a 4-year, like I've been saying. So this is the vibration. This is the year of self-stabilization, self-sufficiency, and self-awareness. Everything for the self. We must learn how to stabilize ourselves because there's going to be a lot of different things that sort of sweep into our lives to try and throw us off, to try and rock us off course. These energies will try to lie to us and say that we're powerless, that we're insignificant, unimportant, just another number or statistic, pawns in a bigger game. This is just a scare tactic to keep you from realizing who you actually are, from you stepping into that power. Because like I said, when you turn that light on and you say, oh, it's just a lampshade, the fear goes away. They can't stop you, control you, or scare you once you realize the truth. They're very aware of that. The only power that these energies have is lies. So with all these different energies, with all these different planets being in the sign of Capricorn, I am seeing a lot of opportunity right now. Opportunity for amazing things and opportunity for not the best of things. This is because Capricorn is committed to himself, to his own goals, to his own agendas. So many different personalities and energies may attempt to take advantage of you, to lie to you, to control you, to manipulate you, because there's so much confusion right now. So if you are not stable and grounded with your 2 feet planted into the dirt of Mother Earth. I mean, the way that the roots of a tree ground themselves into the dirt. If we do not root ourselves into something stable, we are going to get rocked a couple of times because this year is all about stability. It's all about stabilization. So anytime we are dealing with one particular energy, we're dealing with the higher aspect of it and the shadow aspect of it. So that means there's going to be things that help stabilize you, and there's going to be things that come along that try to destabilize you. So we're going to be dealing with both the light aspect and the shadow aspect of these things, okay? So don't fall into the atmosphere of fear, because that is an environment that is controlled by lies and manipulation. Hold your ground, okay? Moving on to Mercury in the sign of Capricorn. Now, this is where I'm seeing that opportunity, because this is motives. This is very fast thinking, people calculating their moves to fit their own agendas. Now, this does not have to be a bad thing. I know having agendas and motives, it sort of got demonized over the years. And like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to mean a negative or a bad or a sneaky thing. Because when you have an agenda, when you have a motive, it just means that you have a goal, a target, right? It just means that I know exactly what it is that I want and I'm going after that, or I'm doing everything in pursuit of this thing. Now, if you're going about this target or this goal or this dream or this whatever, this agenda with lies and deceit and things like that, then that's a completely different story. But just keep in mind that people are very motivated by their own wants, ideas, needs, desires right now, and they really can't see past it, especially with Mercury sitting close to Saturn. Now, this is someone doing everything in their power to avoid their own consequences, commitment, responsibilities, and karma, okay? So this will sort of induce that fight or flight response that all of us have, where it's just going to raise that question, raise that awareness. How are you going to handle this? What are you going to do about this? And I talked about this in my 2020 forecast video. Like I said, I will link it in the description down below. So I talked about in that video about how a lot of people are going to see that mountain being comprised of their own consequences and karma. A lot of people are going to see that mountain and run in the opposite direction. And then there's other people that are going to see that mountain. They're going to talk about getting to the top. They're going to dream about getting to the top, but they're never going to actually do anything. And then there's going to be others that see that mountain of their own karma, and they're going to get excited because they're going to realize that this is not a punishment. My karma is not my punishment, but is my opportunity to finally pull out of this gravitational force of my past, of these same patterns and cycles that aren't getting me anywhere. This is finally that chance for that hamster to get out of that wheel and break out of that cage and actually go, run around and experience life. So this is our opportunity to finally be exerting energy and for us to actually be getting somewhere instead of just exerting energy and getting nowhere, basically. Like the visual is like being on a rocky boat or being on something that's very turbulent. And because of this turbulence, you can't see things clearly. Everything's sort of rocking around. So it has this different optic to it, basically. And so it's really important during this time to pinpoint, to find a target or a goal, something it is that you can focus on to keep your gaze. So that the way while you're rocking around and things like that, you're still focused in the right direction. It's sort of similar to the story in the Christian canon of Jesus and his disciple Peter. When Jesus, he descends from this mountain and he starts walking on the sea, starts walking on water, and there's a storm raging around. And his disciples are watching this man actually walk on water, and they are actually just taken over by fear because they think it's a ghost, they think it's a spirit, and they're like, how is somebody doing this, right? And this story is in the book of Matthew chapter 14 verse 22, somewhere around there, if you want to check it out. And I don't mean to offend anyone that's not a Christian, that doesn't believe in Christianity, anything like that. I am somebody that does not discriminate when it comes to religions, philosophies, principles, traditions, anything. I'm open to just about all of them because there's so much wisdom packed in each and every one of these things. I believe that all religions are sort of just communicating with the same source, and it's this wisdom and knowledge that's coming from the same source, but just is delivered in a different style or in a different tone or in a different way. But yeah, anyway, so as Jesus is walking on water, he's freaked out his disciples, and Peter sees Jesus out there and he really wants to go to him. And I'm really paraphrasing this right now, by the way. So, I might be missing a few points in this story or whatever, because I'm just trying to get through it for the point of this video. But basically, and so Peter steps out of the boat and the rest of the disciples are like, you're crazy, man. Like, nope, you going ahead. We'll just watch. We'll sit here and watch. And so he starts walking on the sea, just like Jesus did. So as Peter is walking on the sea, he's keeping his gaze, his eyes focused on Jesus. He's keeping his eyes focused on that one fixture. And because he's staying focused on him, he is able to maintain his balance. But then Peter gets tested when a large wind blows into him and it scares him. It shakes Peter up and it throws his gaze off. And because he gets distracted, he starts to sink and he's scared. He's frightened. He's screaming, Lord, save me, Lord, save me. And Jesus reaches out to him. He reaches out his hand to him and he saves Peter. He picks Peter up. And the one thing that he says to Peter is, why is your faith so small? In other words, this is Jesus saying, why would you come out here with such little faith? Why would you challenge these waves that are bigger than you, the sea that could swallow you whole? You're just a man. You are no challenge to the sea, to the lightning, to the thunder, to the wind, to the rain. You're no challenge to them, but you know what is? Your faith is. Your faith is. That's the only thing that's more powerful than these other elements and these other opposing forces, than your adversaries. That's the only thing that's more powerful than all these other things, and it's small, it's weak. How are you supposed to get through life like that? I grew up in a Christian household. I grew up in church, and so I've heard this story several times, but it never made sense to me until after I went on my own spiritual journey. Going back through and reading the Christian Bible again, there's so many stories that now make so much sense to me. But this one in particular, every time I read it, I just get goosebumps because it's like, this is literally Jesus. Whether you believe in Jesus or not, whether you call him Jesus, God, the universe, I don't care. Whatever it is, we get so focused on the labels, like, fuck the labels right now for a second, okay? Just think about this from a theoretical standpoint. Let's just take a simple example. You get married, right? And you're supposed to be focused on your spouse, but you're focused on all these other little distractions. There's somebody that walks by in a skirt. They look good. There's somebody that walks by with these big muscles. They look good. There's somebody over here that seems to be very attentive with their partner. Not anything like my spouse. And I'm distracted by this other person instead of keeping my gaze focused on my spouse, on my own marriage. If I can keep my gaze focused on my own marriage, my marriage is going to be just as good, if not better, than the other things it is that I'm seeing out here. That's the 80-20 rule, right? We have 80%, but that 20% that we're lacking really convinces us that we are getting the shittier end of the stick. And it's like, you're not. You've got 80%. You know what I mean? You got 80%, but you are so distracted by this 20% you might be missing. So here you are, somebody that has 80%, but you're being seduced by 20%. You're somebody that's holding $1 million, but you're seduced by $20. Why is that? That's because you've lost faith in the fact that that 80% can be 100%. You've lost faith in the fact that that 80% is enough for you. You've lost faith in the fact that what you have is all you need. Of course, we could make the argument that, yeah, Peter was going to lose his gaze. He's in the middle of the ocean with a raging storm behind him. Yeah, we could argue that. But isn't that what life is? Life is a distraction. Life is turbulence. Grass growing could be a distraction. The wind outside could be a distraction, but it's not. Why is that? Because we decide what it is we give our energy and focus and attention to. So like I said, a lot of people take the Bible in a literal sense, but I take it in a more so theoretical sense. I look at it as a story, the same way that I do the religion of Ifa or Kemetic science, Kemetic knowledge, things like that. I look at these stories in a theoretical sense. I see a story telling us to stay grounded, to stay present, to stay centered, focused on one gaze, one target. So that the way, while all these different parts are moving, while there's chaos going on over here, destruction happening over there, death happening back there, the future in front of us, while we have all these different things going on called life, we are able to stay focused, we're able to stay committed, and because of that commitment, we are able to manifest and materialize the reality we want to live. I just posted a video right before this one, all about how to program crystals and objects and things like that. And in that video, I kept talking about how your intentions are directions for energy. So if you can't clearly see your target, then you don't have one. And when we don't have a direction, when we don't have a target, we're vulnerable. We're susceptible to everything else that is happening around us. We can easily be led astray from our path, from our peace, from our truth, from the thing that gives us comfort, from the thing that gives us direction and purpose. And that's why so many of us have struggled to find our purpose, because we're so distracted by everything else. It's so important to get quiet. So we have to know, even if you don't have an actual target, goal, dream, or purpose, anything like that, there has to be something that you want. I'm sure of it. Even if you aren't actively pursuing something right now, even if you aren't actively pursuing a relationship or a job or money or a house or whatever the case, then maybe you just want peace in your life. Maybe you want clarity. Maybe you want understanding. Maybe you want a purpose. Maybe you just want nothing but to be left the hell alone. Then that could be your target that you need to stay situated on. But either which way, you need to find a target to stay situated on, because for the year of self-stabilization, we are stabilizing ourselves because we are moving with momentum. We are building up momentum. That is what 4 is. So it's really important to have some sort of intention in mind, because if not, these lower vibrational entities will claim this confusion as their opportunity. We have to know, we have to believe, we have to have faith. And it's interesting because some people perceive faith as optional or in fractions. And so faith ends up getting mistaken as hope. So instead of having faith, it's more so like, well, I hope I get this job. I hope I have enough money to pay my rent. I hope I fall in love. I hope they're the one. I hope they don't hurt me. I hope this works out. Instead of knowing. And it's like, no, you can't measure faith. You either have it and know it or you don't. It's that simple. There is no in between when it comes to faith. Faith is just simply knowing. That's all it is. It's a humble sense of knowing with humility. It is knowing without the ego. It is knowing without the arrogance. Even if they aren't the one, even if it doesn't work out, you are still deserving of that. And that is something that you have to know, because when you have faith, you don't put constraints on how and when something will happen. You just know that it will. And because you know that it will, it does. This is how we elevate the nature of the energy that we are feeling right now. This is how we take that fear and convert it to momentum. The mind is the hardest prison to break, but once you do, you break the structures of reality. So moving on to Saturn and Pluto. Now Saturn, like I've been saying, is the planet of discipline, fears, challenges, karma, consequences, right? And Pluto is the god of death, transformation, power. These planets have had a lot of time to create a tidal wave of energy together because they've been stuck together for I want to say definitely over a year. But Pluto is using Saturn to induce a transformation by making us encounter our challenges and fears, because our challenges and fears have stopped us for such a long time. They've controlled us for such a long time. They have kept us in a state of dreaming rather than achieving for such a long time. And the thing is that Saturn and Pluto weren't doing this to hurt us or to work against us or to upset us, but they were waiting for us to train. They knew that we had to get ready, we had to get prepared, we had to learn, we had to encounter other experiences first before we came up against them again. They knew that when the time was right that we'd have experienced enough to be ready and prepared for their energy. Just like when Jesus asks Peter, why is your faith so small? Why did you come out here with such little faith? Basically, Saturn and Pluto were waiting for us to build up that faith for us to encounter that raging storm. The sun represents us, the ego, and the sun is approaching Saturn and Pluto. This is us approaching our own opportunity to be free of our past, our karma, and our obstacles. So this eclipse with the moon in the north node in the sign of Cancer is actually not trying to challenge the sun like she normally does during a full moon. Actually, I see this full moon in Cancer, this lunar eclipse, as the moon trying to actually help or support the sun, aka us. This is a very, very unique full moon because normally she's not this cooperative with the sun during a full moon. Like I said, during a full moon, she's opposing the sun. She's saying, hey, I'm my own person, you're gonna see me. But she's not necessarily demanding this time around. I'm actually seeing her as the other pillar that is propping us up at this time, along with the sun and these other energies. I see the moon saying, come here. She's like beckoning to us. She's telling us, come here. Like a mother that's sort of dealing with a frightened child, that kid that wakes up in the middle of the night and says that there's a monster under my bed. You know, I'm scared. The moon, the mother, she's cradling us right now, telling us that everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to be okay. There's nothing to fear. She's saying that it's safe even though you don't feel like it. She's saying that even though it's nighttime, the sun is going to come back up again in the morning. She's saying that even though that monster under the bed is really scary, he's not even real. She is providing us with that divine feminine security that's very intimidating and strong, but also very nourishing and warm and comforting. This is exactly what we need right now. But the trick is here for this full moon and this lunar eclipse is the fact that we have to be able to hear her because there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of busyness. There's a lot of hecticness. There's just a lot going on. There's a lot of turbulence right now. So with her being so quiet in comparison to the storm, it's very easy for us to run right past her. Very Five of Pentacles sort of energy where people are running around in the freezing cold, but they're looking for shelter. They're looking for refuge, but they're so just overtaken by their lack of having shelter that they don't even notice the church that's right beside them. So we have to learn how to quiet the things it is that we don't know and understand and focus on the things it is that we do know, that we do feel, that we can sense. To know is to hold power. If you can know throughout the midst of this storm, then you're not going to be overtaken by that tidal wave, but instead you're going to walk right over it. Moving on to Mars and Sagittarius. Mars and Sagittarius is a major player right now. Mars, like I have described him plenty of times before on my channel, he is our purpose. He is our reason. He is our because. He's the reason that we get up out of bed in the morning and do what it is that we have to do. Sagittarius is the archer that sees potential in all things. So Sagittarius is the one that can see something that's broken down and can actually see what that thing can become. With Mars and Sagittarius, our reason, our because, our purpose in the sign of Sagittarius, these two fire energies coming together can be so extremely beautiful because we can use this energy to look past the turbulence. We can look past the storm. We can say, hey, you know what? There's a crazy raging storm out here, but at the same time, there's a lot of potential in this storm. This is an opportunity for me to escape my karma, escape my past, escape these patterns and cycles. So use this potential, this energy as a trajectory so you can keep a clear view on the way to your target. Moving on to Uranus squaring off with the moon and Pluto. Uranus is in the sign of Taurus and he's currently retrograde. Normally to me, this would sort of look like Uranus being problematic. And you guys know I've talked about Uranus plenty of times. I don't see him as a rebel. I don't see him as chaos. I see him as the individual. He's somebody that just dances to the beat of his own drum. So of course, when you're dealing with somebody that's sort of radical like that sort of thinks for themselves, society will tell you that, oh, they're problematic. They're an issue. They're a problem, but he's not a rebel. He's just an individual. He's just like, I'm doing me. That's why why Uranus also rules trends, and Aquarius rules trends as well. I'll be talking about that when we get to Aquarius, which will be pretty soon here. Like I said, I would probably normally see Uranus as problematic in this sense, and I never see him as problematic, but I probably would see him this way during this time with the way that he's set up. But I'm actually intuitively feeling and seeing Uranus as the calm voice of reason. He's squaring off with the moon and Saturn and Pluto. But I'm feeling him as the calm voice of reason. I see Uranus like saying, you know what? I don't want to get involved. You guys handle this. You guys figure this out. Uranus is pulling a full-on Taurus right now, deciding to nestle in at home by the fire with a good book and a glass of Merlot while the storm rages just outside his door. That is exactly what he's deciding to do. He's deciding to say, I don't want anything to do with any of these energies. You guys are just out here duking it out. And you know what? I don't feel like it. And this is because he's in the sign of Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is all about values. I've talked about her very, very extensively. She's all about making life worth living, making life an experience instead of just an existence. And she does this because she rules values. Values would be things like money, sex, food, good wine, whatever it is that you consider good, luxury, comfort, those will be your values. He's keeping out this energy right now, and he's just deciding to ride this wave or ride this storm in complete style. So he's sort of just shutting down. And this is actually pretty typical of Uranus, that even though right now I'm seeing him as being peaceful, this is actually him being rebellious. He's just doing what he wants when he wants. This is the typical nature of Uranus. He's a complete savage. I mean, what else can you say about him, right? So now that we have covered the astrological placements that are intuitively standing out to me for this full moon lunar eclipse, now I'm going to get to the interpretations of what exactly this energy could mean. A few things to watch out for right now is arguments. If there's anybody that just seems like they are just wanting to argue, just wanting to sort of be negative, just wanting to sort of debate, you know, some people, they just love debating. It's just like their thing. They love debating, they love arguing, they love being right. If you are coming across someone like that, do not respond from a place of fear or revenge or anger or rage, okay? Pluto rules power, like I've been saying. So the shadow side of Pluto can actually be very reminiscent of the Five of Swords sort of energy, where, you know, it's like that guy standing there with that sword and the other two opponents, they're like walking off feeling defeated. It's that energy of I need to win, or I need to protect my very fragile ego by any means necessary, even if I have to hit you below the belt, even if I have to really dig into something that I know hurts you, even if I have to do something really grimy, really dirty. If that means that I win, I'm willing to do that. That's sort of the energy here right now, okay? So keep your eye on what is most important. Do not give into this energy. Do not give into this atmosphere. Do not give into that energy, because the atmosphere right now is really setting the tone for a lot of different ego tantrums to be set off, to be going off right now, okay? So don't fall for it. Another thing to look out for is to watch your energy levels. Insomnia, headaches, mental exhaustion, increased symptoms of anxiety are very, very possible right now. So listen to your body. Do not push your body, okay? If you feel like you need a break or a nap or a comfort meal or something that's comforting, do it. Go for it. Indulge in it a little bit. Sometimes you need a cheat day on your diet, or a night off from work, or to experience some pleasure in a sense where you're not feeling guilty about it or ashamed of it. Another thing to note right now is that your dreams may be on a completely different level. They may be on like 10 right now. Nightmares, night terrors, dreaming of literally worst case scenario, being almost tormented by your dreams, experiencing panic attacks in your dreams, seeing our worst fears when we fall asleep at night. Do not be moved by this. The sun, which is the ultimate light, is coming to meet the ultimate dark, which is Pluto. Pluto is the furthest planet from the sun in our solar system. So the barriers between light and dark, fear and comfort, are going to completely melt away. And these contrasting energies are going to start to bleed into each other. But I'm talking about real contrasting energies, like not energies that sort of don't match each other. I'm talking about polar opposites are coming together. They are bleeding, seeping in together. And so there's a lot of things that's sort of bleeding into our everyday life, bleeding into our dream state, bleeding into our mind, our emotions, our heart, our body, our energy space, our aura. Do not be fazed by this. Wake up from that dream, wake up from that night terror, pray, meditate, set intentions, speak peace over yourself, speak courage over yourself. Don't say that I have a lot of courage, I am strong. No, say I am strength, I am courage, I am peace. These are the things that you need to get really acquainted with, is confidence, being able to know, not having a shadow of doubt of what it is that you are intending. We have to really build up this confidence right now. And this is why there's so many shaky things going on. Things are shaking around because the energy is trying to teach us how to be still throughout these rumbles and earthquakes and things of that nature, okay? Speak balance, peace, clarity, love, support, and protection over yourself and your loved ones during this time. Another thing that came to me last week is to be very careful when doing any spell work right now, because there's this sort of subconscious undercurrent of energy that's stemming from fear. So I actually wouldn't advise to perform any rituals or magic right now if you are feeling anything besides stable, secure, confident, assured, at peace, balanced. If you're feeling anything but these emotions, you need to really ground yourself before doing any sort of spell work, okay? If you're just really wanting to do spell work, but you're feeling a little anxious or a little off, really take this time to protect yourself, to center yourself, to ground yourself. That the way you can work magic from a space where you are very calm and centered, because you need to be confident, and you can't be confident if you're feeling destabilized, if you're feeling insecure, whatever the case, okay? And another thing to note that I really want to mention, the root, sacral, and solar plexus chakras are chakras that we really need to be paying a lot of extra attention to right now. And this is why I'm an advocate for the lower chakras, because they don't get enough love. Everybody's always concerned about the third eye and the crown. No, the lower chakras is so important, because the root chakra is a processor of fear. This can sort of correlate to Saturn. The sacral chakra is a processor of pleasure. We can correlate this to the moon and Uranus. And the solar plexus chakra is a processor of power and identity, confidence, basically. And we can correlate this chakra to Pluto right now. I'm seeing these chakras as a complete game changer, as a complete deal breaker between the ones that are going to be feeling very chaotic at this time and the ones that are going to feel very still and composed at this time. So now that we've gotten all the astrological points out of the way, let's go ahead and move on to the different crystals, herbs, oils, things like that you can use. I won't be talking necessarily about how to use them, how to program them, or anything like that, because I've already done a completely dedicated video to how to bind your intentions and your energy, or how to program certain objects like crystals, herbs, oils, inanimate objects like statues, makeup, clothes, whatever it is that you want, to help you manifest easier. And these are the crystals that are associated with the sign of Cancer. So anything like carnelian, and carnelian is actually a crystal that can charge other crystals. It can cleanse other crystals, so it's very, 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 very powerful. Any sort of calcite will do. This is a honey calcite right here. This is a piece of green calcite that I think is so pretty. It's moonstone. Any sort of moonstone pieces, tumbled pieces, rough pieces. Moonstone's going to be very, very good for this full moon in Cancer, since Cancer is ruled by the moon. Selenite is actually another crystal that corresponds to the zodiac sign Cancer. I actually do believe that opal is related to Cancer in some way. I think it might be. I feel like it is. And so I have a tiny little piece of opal here. Aquamarine is just another stone that I'm very drawn to for this full moon in Cancer. So I will be using this as well. Now, as far as herbs go, anything like peppermint, spearmint, lemon, parsley, I'm very particularly drawn to rosemary right now. So frankincense is just, I'm obsessed with frankincense just every day of my life anyways. But yeah, right now is just something that I feel like frankincense will be very good for mostly everyone, in my opinion. Frankincense is so powerful. It can cleanse literally any sort of space. In my opinion, is just as powerful as sage. Sage is another herb that you can definitely be using for this full moon in Cancer as well. Any sort of roses, daisies, lilies, bay, parsley, those would all be things that you can use for this new moon or full moon. I keep saying new moon, but full moon. Any sort of white candle I think would actually be really good for around this time, just because you can kind of set it to match any sort of vibration, because white is such an easy sort of color to work with. And of course, clear quartz. I am just loving clear quartz right now. I've actually been just walking around holding clear quartz on me lately, and I've found that it's kind of kept me pretty just neutral would be the best word, just neutral. So now that all this is out of the way, we're just going to go on ahead and jump straight into the meditation. That the way we can get to the cards for this video, the tarot portion of this video. And the very first tarot card that I have here is the Nine of Pentacles. So there's something very interesting happening in this Nine of Pentacles card. If you look at it, you can see that the pentacles surrounding him right here, they're actually giving back to him. So what I'm seeing this card as is this is the fruit of your labor, basically, because these pentacles that he's made or created or has accumulated over time, has built up over time, is now actually giving back to him. It's providing him warmth. It's providing him light. It's providing his plants with the nutrients and the things it is that they need. And it's the Nine of Pentacles. 9 is a number of regeneration. So basically any number that you add to 9 is going to reduce back to that number. 9 plus 5 is 14. 1 plus 4 equals 5. 9 plus 2 is 11. 1 plus 1 equals 2. So, you know, anything that you add to 9 is going to reduce back to that number. So this is a number of regeneration. So this is regeneration. This is self-sufficiency. This is knowing how to create something that's actually going to give back to you. And I'm just seeing this card as true independence. Like, this is true independence, true survival. When you know how to take care of yourself, when you know how to not only just take care of yourself, but to put yourself in an environment where you are constantly replenishing, you are creating things, you are putting your own energy into things that are later on going to put their own energy back into you. So this is a complete process of regeneration, recycling, basically. So I'm seeing this as us learning how to survive on our own, but in a way where we're thriving, we're doing very good. The next card that we have here is the High Priestess. So she's been making appearances left and right lately, but now I know why. Now I understand why she's been popping up a lot as of late. And that's because she was trying to prepare us for the fact that there's going to be a very hypersensitive time that we're experiencing in January, in the month of January, late December, and in the month of January. I think she was just trying to come through as a warning that we're going to be hypersensitive. We're going to be feeling these really subtle, deeply hidden sort of energies, and this can cause people to feel a little paranoid, to feel a little unstable. But she's saying, for me in this card, what the High Priestess is saying is like, just listen to me, fall back on me. This is also the card of the moon. The High Priestess is actually the card that corresponds to the moon. So this is that mothering presence that's asking us to be quiet, to be still, and to listen so we can be guided by her. And this is crazy because I talked about how the moon, to me, she feels like she's more so of like trying to actually support us during this full moon, and not challenge us like normal, but she's actually trying to support us. Like, she's trying to be that other pillar for us. And then here comes the High Priestess. And the High Priestess is known to be situated between, if you guys can see this, but the High Priestess, yeah, there we go, is known to be situated between two pillars. And some people say that it's representative of life and death, or light and dark, whatever the case. And I'm seeing this as you can trust yourself. You can rest easy in the fact that knowing that your journey has led you up to this point. So do not fear what is happening right now, because it is exactly what is supposed to be happening. Don't fear it. This is what you were sculpted to be able to endure. This is something that is meant to happen. And the things it is that you have learned can give back to you. These things that I've gone through are now starting to give back to me. These experiences, these lessons are now starting to give back to me in a way where it's like, I can handle what is happening right now. Maybe it's a little scary. Maybe I don't necessarily comprehend it. Maybe I don't understand it. The High Priestess rules all of those things. She rules mystery. She rules intrigue. She rules the dark, being afraid that this is somewhere that's very unfamiliar. She rules that mystery. So this doesn't just have to do with occult sciences. This has to do with like the simple things where it's like, I don't understand what's going on with my relationship right now. It just feels really weird. I don't necessarily understand it. I don't know what's going to happen with this deal that I'm trying to make happen. It's a very strange time. I don't know if they're going to say yes or no. This is a very strange time. I'm unfamiliar with it. I'm out of my comfort zone. I'm out of my known territory. When you have true faith, you don't have an idea about how or when something is going to happen. You just know that it will. The next card that we have here is, look at that. Beautiful, the Tower. I know a lot of people, when they first get into tarot, the Tower is like this really scary, feared, notorious card. It's like that big bad card, right? This and a few other ones that really just stand out and go, oh shit, what's about to go down? But I actually see the Tower, I've learned to see it as a really, really good thing, because sometimes things need to collapse. And this right here, the Tower card, is coming through as Saturn and Pluto all day. completely coming through as Saturn and Pluto, actually coming through as the sun moving past Saturn and Pluto. You see these people trying to prop up this structure here? They are refusing to allow this structure to fall. They're refusing it. They're actually putting their lives at risk, trying to prop up something that is committed to destruction, that is committed to falling. So I'm seeing this card as surrender, complete surrender. This is the time of complete surrender. You may feel very suspended right now, just sort of almost like you're floating, just suspended. And this is because the sun moving past Saturn and Pluto is coming through to force us into a state of surrender. Surrender can be so powerful. A lot of people see that as you losing. This is a loss. I have to surrender to something. That means I have to give up my rights to something. That means I have to relinquish my control over something. Yeah. That's how you level up in terms of control and power and authority, by learning how to surrender. When we refuse change, like I was talking about, real change, the type of change where the only option we have is to surrender, when we refuse it, we run the risk of getting crushed under it, because we're trying to prevent something from happening that is already committed to happening. We're trying to prevent something that has already been set in motion. And that might be something that they're really trying to save here, is the fact that it's like, no, this structure has been up for over 100 years or over 1,000 years. We don't want to let that history go. We don't want to let that effort and investment go that we have put so much time and love into. We don't want to let this go, but because we've invested so much into it. But you're going to receive a return on investment. You are. You're going to receive that return on investment. This destruction, letting it go, is a part of your investment. You just have to trust what's happening. You have to trust it, no matter what it looks like right now. Right now, the tower is saying right now things look destructive. Right now, things don't look new. Things don't feel new. Things don't feel like, oh, we're getting this year started off and this new decade. It doesn't feel like that right now. Right now, what the state of the world feels like, right now, what my emotions feel like, right now, what my mind feels like, right now, what my body feels like is this. But that's a part of your investment. This is a part of your investment. No one said it was going to be easy, right? The next card that we have here is the World in reverse. Beautiful. And this is Geb and Newt creating the night sky. This World card here is saying to me, you've been trying at something. You've been killing yourself, trying to keep something else alive. You've been depleting yourself to charge something or someone else. How does that work? If you are killing yourself to keep that other thing alive, you won't be here to enjoy it, so why do it? And when I'm talking about killing yourself, death, I'm not talking about literally. I mean, just like you're really putting your all into something that's not giving anything back to you. This is about investment right now, a return on investments. This is all about reciprocity. But if you are depleting yourself so much, and this thing isn't giving you back a fraction of what it is that you're giving, that's counterproductive. The World card in reverse and this Tower card here, they've been saying that what you've been doing is counterproductive. You built this structure at one point in time just saying like, you know what, this is going to be something that I construct, something that I make, something that I create because I really want it or I really need it or whatever the case. But later on in your life, as your life started to evolve, progress, and change, that same thing that you created became your wall. It became your resistance. It became something that was counterproductive to what it was that you were trying to do. So because you keep running into that same wall that you constructed, you're not understanding how that's happening. You're not understanding it. You're not necessarily able to see it. It's a mystery to you. You don't understand it. Why do I keep running into the same issues? Why do I keep doing this? Sometimes we lack that awareness to see that we have created this resistance. So when we start praying to the universe, talking to the universe, asking Spirit, can you help us? Can you deliver us from this situation? Can you remove this situation from me? Can you clear my path so I can walk? Sometimes when you ask for that clarity, when you ask for that clear path, what you're asking for is this: destruction. But because of the way that the universe answers you, because of the way that the universe responds, it's difficult for you to trust it. It's difficult for you to trust it because it's like, this doesn't look like a clear path. This doesn't look like you're clearing my path. It looks like you're destroying something that I really wanted. That thing that you really wanted is in your way. So I'm seeing this World card in reverse here as what you've been doing is working against yourself. It's not working. So please allow me to destroy this for you so we can build something greater, better, more beautiful. The World card is all about mastery, you guys. It's the final card in the major arcana of tarot. So this is all about mastery. I've mastered. I've reached the end of this chapter. I've reached the end of this book, right? I've reached the end of this journey. So there's a certain sort of mastery that comes with that. I'm seeing this as some of us have to let go of something that we've put years of work, blood, and sweat and tears into. We don't want to allow this destruction to happen because the things that we have invested into creating this thing are invaluable. There's no return on investment when it comes to something like that. Time, energy, love, effort, these things are invaluable. These things are priceless, and you can't necessarily get them back once you've invested them into something else. And that is exactly why we are trying to save this tower here, because what has gone into this tower is invaluable. I can't get it back. But that's the thing. You don't want this return to be something from your past. You don't want to, once the structure is gone, you don't want to rebuild the exact same thing. You want that effort to go into creating something completely new. So that's the thing. When we say goodbye to something, when we let go of something, what is it that you are expecting back? Are you looking for that same sort of thing? Because that's the same thing that you needed to say goodbye to. That's the same thing that was a wall for you, that became counterproductive, that became your resistance. You don't want to see that again. Allow the rubble of this structure that falls and crashes onto the ground, allow this rubble to be the building blocks for something new. So maybe you don't want to let go of this structure because of the history and the effort and everything it is that went into creating this. Where you are going is not interested in the ghosts of your past. No matter how ancient or valuable it is to you, your future doesn't see the same value in your past the way that you do. You see value in that past because maybe you're looking at it as like, I'm never going to get that time back. I'm never going to get that effort, that love, that energy back. But your future says you don't want that back. You don't need that. The rubble and the debris of your past is going to become the foundation of this new structure. So allow this to fall. Allow it to, let it go. Just let it go. And the very last tarot card that we have here is the Nine of Wands in reverse. So this is a merging or fusion of contrasts. This is that barrier getting sort of melted away. So now we don't know what's up, down, left, right, past, present, future, because our structure has been destroyed. This is something that we built up over time. This is why the tower, it doesn't necessarily have to mean something scary. It more so, the tower is actually freedom, you guys. That's what it is. And when you start to see this card in that way, the fear is going to get completely eliminated. You're being freed because structure is constraints. It's confinements. It is something that's saying, hey, you can only operate within this perimeter, within this vicinity. So when that comes crashing down, you are allotted freedom. You are given freedom. You're given opportunity. You are given something that is so much bigger and more expansive than the structure. So you can rebuild this structure if you want to, or something completely different. It's up to you, but that's the thing here, is that now you have the freedom to decide what it is that you want to do. Especially if you build this structure with no sort of awareness that it's like, you know what, I'm going to build this thing, not understanding that later on down the line, it's actually going to be in my way. So especially if you built a structure with, lacking some sort of awareness, then this is beautiful. This is freedom. Maybe you got into that relationship without that awareness, and now that relationship is breaking down. That is freedom for you. Now I am free to focus on myself or to find what it is that I truly need in another person. Maybe that friendship didn't work out. You know what? That's fine, because you were depleting me. You were draining me. You stabbed me in the back. You hurt me. Or maybe we have just gone separate ways in our life. Maybe I'm ascending. Maybe I'm elevating. Maybe I'm trying to devote myself. Maybe my structure is being torn down here so that the way I can see a proper return on investment. That the way I can invest into something that's actually going to give back to me, because I am sick of being depleted. I told you guys in that 2020 forecast video that now we are going to be asking for the things that are healthy for us, the things that are good for us. You know, a lot of the times we don't crave the things that are healthiest for us because they're not exciting. They don't necessarily taste or feel good. but they are what is best for us. They are what is going to replenish us. They are what is going to give us the biggest, the greatest turn on investment. This is what is happening in your life right now. There are certain things that you're realizing, and it's like, you know what? I'm done trying to fight this truth. I'm done trying to fight this observation. I'm done trying to belittle myself or to suppress my own needs. That the way I can prop this structure up, that the way I can keep this propped up, that the way I can keep this relationship, that the way I can keep this job that I can't stand. It's not healthy for us to keep things in our life just because they feel familiar or comfortable, or just because we've known them for X amount of years or done the same routine for X amount of years. If it cannot take me past this point from point A to point B, it's going to get destroyed by Saturn and Pluto. That is your freedom. Trust in that. Because the Nine of Wands is also about structure, building something. The Nine of Wands is that guy he's kind of beat up, he's injured, and he builds up a wall because he just needs a break. He's been through a lot. He's been successful. He's been triumphant. He's had to deal with haters. He's had to deal with random attacks. He's had to deal with surprise attacks. He's tired. So he builds up a wall of wands to keep everything and everyone out so he can just get a damn break. The Nine of Wands is kind of like a womb when you think about it. He's enclosing himself behind this structure, behind this wall to protect himself because he's been so vulnerable. Every now and then we need to go into our own retrograde period, our own retrograde moment. Sometimes I need to return back home to this mothering presence. Sometimes I need to fall back into mom's arms because the world's gotten too tiring. It's gotten too exhausting. It's become too painful. It's taken too much out of me, and I need to fall back in this so I can just relax, so I can just replenish, so I don't have to fight, so I don't have to do these things, so I don't have to worry about trying to prop up the structure. I'm beat up, I'm injured, I'm tired, I'm just fucking exhausted. So this is saying we've had our time in the womb and now it's time to be birthed. We've had our time in the cocoon and now it's time to break free. We've had our time. It's time to emerge now. And the world that we are emerging into, the world that we are being birthed into, it looks a little scary. It looks a little unsafe. Damn right, it looks a little scary and unsafe. Nothing is going to feel or look as safe as that womb. Nothing's ever going to feel as warm or as safe or as comforting as that nest. But once you leave that nest, yes, it's scary. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, I'm alone. Yes, I have to figure this out. Yes, I have to take everything it is that I've learned almost like a test, and I have to use this for my survival. But the difference is that I'm not getting taught in the safety of this cocoon space anymore. Do not be afraid of that. You cannot avoid these injuries. You're going to get injured. You're going to get little nicks every now and then. You're going to get cut every now and then. You're going to get bruised every now and then. Because life is not that womb space. Maybe that comfortable space for you is your relationship, even though that relationship is toxic. So many of us, I know I've been guilty of it for years, man. I stayed in plenty of toxic relationships, just thinking like, well, I put in so much time. And what they did do, it wasn't that bad. And I stayed and stayed and stayed and ignored and ignored and ignored until the point to where something so bad happened that I couldn't ignore it. Something so painful happened that I was forced to acknowledge it. I was forced to look at it. This tower doesn't just all fall at once. Sometimes there's little cracks that start to show. Sometimes little pieces start to fall off. Sometimes the, paintings on it may start to fade. And that's how you know, it's not the foundation isn't good. That's how you know that this needs some upkeep, this needs some maintenance. And sometimes we can't maintain everything, especially when we're dealing with other people. We cannot maintain a relationship on our own. If that person is not maintaining alongside you, you cannot do it on your own. So if you are involved in a situation where you are looking for someone else to do their part and they're not doing their part, really take a honest look at that. Is it fair for you to be trying to prop up this structure all on your own? Trust what you're feeling. Trust what you're feeling. High Priestess, trust what you're feeling. Use that discernment. Use your discernment to say, you know what, this doesn't feel right. Those red flags, something don't feel right. Because it ain't right. That's what it is usually. There's a moment in every stock trader's career where it's like, okay, I've invested this much money into it, but now I'm losing X amount of money. Now I'm starting to lose more than what I invested. And yeah, the stock could turn around any second and I make $1,000 more than what I invested, but I need to learn how to cut my losses here. There's wisdom in that, because sometimes staying too long is just it's not cute. Sometimes you need to know when to leave the party. So this is the future. This is the direction. This is that transit from point A to point B that you've been asking, praying, setting intentions for, trying to manifest, using the law of attraction, using spell work, using magic, programming your subconscious, taking care of yourself, eating healthier. These are the different things that we've asked the universe to help us assist in. And the universe says, okay, yeah, no problem. We have no problem helping you. We've been waiting to tear this shit down because it's not working. We've been waiting for this. We've been waiting because we're getting sick of looking at it. And we're getting sick of seeing you run into the exact same wall, not knowing what the hell is going on. So let's go ahead and check out the oracle cards that we have here. I won't really be interpreting these too much. The very first oracle card that we have here is wellness. Yeah, this is like taking care of yourself, making sure that you are being nourished during this time, really taking care of yourself. It's actually meditating. So it's like this is about more than just taking care of your physical body, but we need to really protect our minds right now. Really protect our minds and our energy. The next card that we have is, wow, wait, meditation. And he looks exactly like this other card here. They look exactly alike. So yeah, wellness and meditation. Make sure that you're taking care of your mental health, your energy, your emotional health. Really, really, really important right now. It's always important, but right now, those aspects of us is being really bombarded. That anxiety is not just playing on our physical body, it's more so playing on our mental and emotional health. Okay, the next card that we have here is Divine Animals. Beautiful. So yeah, I mentioned earlier on in this video to watch your dreams, and this is what I'm getting with this for some reason. Watch your dreams. If any sort of animals are coming to you in your dreams, you know, your guides may be coming to you right now in the form of animals. Messages may come to you at this time in the form of animals. Even though I honestly sort of feel like this card is kind of like confirmation. Some of you may have been dreaming about animals lately, or more drawn to them, or they're more drawn to you, something like that lately, because it's a message trying to come through. Spirit's trying to send you a message. The next card that we have here, nothing has gone wrong. I didn't even know that this card existed in this deck. I've never seen it before. This is my first time ever seeing this card. It says nothing has gone wrong. What have I been saying this entire video? This is exactly what's supposed to be happening. You are fine. You are safe. You left that safe space, but you are still safe. It's about how we perceive that space to be. This is all about perception right here. This nothing has gone wrong is I feel that this is the guides, angels, and ancestors of the collective coming through. Maybe even ascended masters coming through, trying to impart some peace right now, because there's so much chaos and hecticness and chaos, because people are so not used to chaos, because people have been programmed to believe that chaos is evil and is bad for them, that destruction is evil and bad, death is evil and bad, dark is evil and scary and bad. Because we've been conditioned to believe that, every time something chaotic or out of order happens, we go into this frenzy where we freak out. Oh my goodness, life is going crazy. No, it's not. It's just different. It's all about your perception. Nothing has gone wrong. This for me was actually confirmation that I need to do a video on light and dark versus evil. Like, what is light, what is dark, and what is actual evil? Because people have really demonized chaos, destruction, death, dark, like they just see it as the worst thing ever. And this is why I don't say light and love anymore, because it's like, we kind of need to get away from that notion, because life is going to be chaotic. Life is going to be turbulent. There's going to be turbulence in everything it is that we experience in life. We need to know how to say, okay, there's turbulence. So what? I feel like this is definitely some higher ups coming through, trying to tell us all down here, chill, because you are allowing this energy to throw you completely off right now. And this is exactly what needs to be happening for us to get from point A to point B. So if you process what's supposed to be happening as fear or a mistake, then you are interfering with the work of the universe. You are telling the universe that this is wrong, even though this is what you ordered, even though this is what you asked for. Even though you asked for, hey, can you clear my path for me? And the universe says, yeah, no problem. Let's go on ahead and knock this over. And you're trying to save this structure from getting knocked over. Has any of your friends like ever asked you like, hey, can you help me do this? Or hey, can you help me do that? Or hey, can you give me advice? And you give them advice and they don't take it. Or you give them advice and then they debate you on it. And it's like, what did you come to me for? Know what you want before you come to me. That's exactly what the universe is saying to us right now. Know what you want before you come to me. Because faith, like I said earlier on in this video, faith is not having constraints on how and when something is going to happen, but just knowing that it will. The less constructs you have, the less restraints you have, the more that the universe can work with. So get out of your own way, okay? We have to get out of our own way here. The next card that we have here is Healing the Divine Masculine. Osiris rises. Beautiful. Osiris. I call him Asar because that's his Kemetic name. Wow. Even their story goes along with this energy here. So Aset, who is known as the goddess Isis, she was in love with Asar, who is also known as Osiris. After they get married, Asar is killed or destroyed by Aset's brother, Set. And Set is the god of chaos and destruction, right? And so he's sort of like evil. He chops up Asar into 14 different pieces, and Aset has to go all around the world finding all of Asar's pieces, because she knows that if she can just find the pieces to his body, she can remake him, she can bring him back. The 7 scorpions, they end up helping Aset finding the 13 pieces of Asar's body, but they don't find the 14th piece. And the 14th piece of Asar happens to be his shaft, his baby maker. Because she can't find that piece, she decides to make one out of gold. And they end up conceiving this golden child, Heru, otherwise better known as Horus. And Heru ends up becoming the child that ultimately ends up defeating these evil forces, these adversaries, Set. He ends up defeating the same person that destroyed his father. This sacrifice had to be made in order for the bigger picture to come to fruition. And the bigger picture was annihilating evil once and for all. And the only way that this was going to happen was through Heru. And Heru was only conceived through the destruction of his father Asar. But this is all about allowing things to be destroyed so something better can come along. The next card that we have here is the Miracle of Isis, miraculous healing of the goddess, the Neteru Aset. And this is Aset and Asar. Asar is probably that green, bluish, teal sort of character you may have seen in hieroglyphs. So Asar becomes the god of the afterlife. He becomes the god of death, the god of resurrection, fertility, as well as life, thanks to Aset's abilities. But yeah, this is like healing. This is healing. This destruction is healing. This destruction, like I was saying earlier, is a part of your investment. And the very last card that we have here, look at this. This is beautiful. This is a beautiful way to end off this reading. Life restored, priestess of the phoenix. I'm going to leave you guys off with the cards to divine your own messages, so that the way the cards can speak to you maybe, and you can come up with your own messages that apply more so in detail to your life. Because like I said, I speak a lot in terms of energy because this is a collective reading. So thank you guys so very much for tuning in. I pray that this entire video brought you guys some clarity, some support, some strength, and some love right now, and a little bit of peace. Hopefully this video brought you guys a little bit of peace. I'm really praying for that. I'm setting the intention for that in this video. I always set the intention for that, but especially with what's going on in today's time right now. And we're going to be okay. We're going to be more than okay. Matters of fact, we're going to be thriving. As somebody actually left a comment on the last video where they said this next decade is about to be divine, and I loved that comment. It gave me so much life. Let me get your name. This is born miles, this decade is going to be divine. I want to thank your beautiful guides, my beautiful guides, our higher self, and beautiful, amazing spirit itself for these awesome messages today. I pray that you guys come back to visit me sometime soon, but until next time, you guys stay safe, stay blessed, stay peaceful, keep conquering the world, keep being divine, and I'll be back next time, all right? Bye, guys.